In one of the most remote corners of the galaxy, humanity had been reborn. The brightest engineers on Earth had evolved humans to withstand the galaxy's most dangerous conditions. This new generation of humanity, capable of becoming a force of nature on high-gravity planets, breathing freely in toxic atmospheres, and enduring extreme temperatures, had become one of the most feared species in the galaxy. Other galactic races were terrified by this ability to adapt, but humanity was determined to march toward victory, even in the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Michael Tiberius was the leader of a commando unit assigned to Nostrati, one of the Galactic Federation's most challenging planets. Nostrati had a gravity 3 times that of Earth, and its surface was covered in poisonous gases. While most species could not survive for more than a few minutes on this planet, Tiberius and his team, marvels of human engineering, had been training here for weeks. Tiberius was leading the vanguard of commando forces that would take the first step toward conquering the galaxy for humanity. Under the crushing gravity, they honed their combat techniques, feeling their muscles grow stronger with every step. "Be ready," he called out. "This planet is our testing ground. Every moment here makes us stronger. They may underestimate us, but we will win." Tiberius' team had specialized in both survival in extreme temperatures and strategic combat against enemy forces. The Lyrics, the native species of Nostrati, were stunned and terrified by how quickly humans had adapted. When the humans arrived, the Lyrics thought they would repel the invasion in no time. But with every battle, their fear deepened as they became more and more impressed by the strength of the human commando unit. The unit advanced cautiously through the dense and toxic forests of Nostrati. The massive, rough trunks of the trees seemed to slice through the air, while the dark green mist filtering through the leaves was a constant reminder that the Lyrics had turned this deadly planet into a battlefield filled with traps. Every step felt like there was danger lurking beneath the ground. Tiberius could feel the tension, as if even nature itself was fighting against them. Tiberius paused for a moment, surveying his surroundings. "Stay sharp," he whispered into his radio, careful not to break the eerie silence. "The Lyrics are definitely watching us." Suddenly, a crackling sound broke the quiet. It was like a growl coming from beneath the ground. Moments later, the earth split open, and massive creatures emerged from below. These colossal beasts, natural allies of the Lyrics, were covered in thick armor and armed with razor-sharp teeth, posing a deadly threat. One of the soldiers tried to retreat, but one of the creatures lunged at him. Without hesitation, Tiberius aimed his heavy weapon at the creature's body and fired. The bullet pierced the thick armor, but the beast was still standing. "Alex, right flank. Keep firing," Tiberius shouted, urging his team to react quickly. Alex aimed his laser rifle at the creature's eyes and fired in rapid succession. Finally, the beast collapsed, but the Lyrics seized the opportunity and intensified their attacks. The mist limited their visibility, and the toxic gases dispersed in every direction, making it harder for the soldiers to maneuver. Yet, the humans were prepared for these conditions. Thanks to genetic modifications, their lungs were resistant to the poisonous gases. However, the battle was still grueling under the planet's gravity. Every move demanded more energy, and the weight was pushing their physical limits. Another creature silently approached the unit from behind. Its spiked tail poised to strike, and Tiberius noticed it just in time. "Fall back," he shouted, but it was too late. The creature's tail impaled one of his soldiers, bringing him down. Tiberius leaped onto the beast, neutralizing it with a powerful knife strike. Within seconds, he attached an energy explosive to the creature's neck and retreated. The explosion sent a massive cloud of dust into the air as the beast fell to the ground. "Push them back," Tiberius ordered. "Hold your positions and keep firing." The soldiers quickly set up strategic positions within the toxic forest, forming a dense line of fire. Alex and the rest of the team targeted the Lyrics' massive creatures, continuing their relentless barrage. Lasers flashed through the mist, seeking out the enemy's weak points. After several minutes of intense combat, the tide of the battle began to turn in favor of the unit. The resilience and technological prowess of the humans were proving to be stronger than the Lyrics had anticipated. But this was only the beginning. The real Lyric assault was yet to come. Tiberius briefly considered a retreat, but knew he needed to make a strategic move. "We're pulling back," he said into his radio. "But this fight isn't over." The Lyrics will strike the moment they think we've defeated them. The unit quickly retreated, heading for higher ground within the forest. Here, it would be harder for the Lyrics to launch an effective attack. Additionally, the toxic mist was thinner in the upper layers of the trees. This position would give the humans an advantage against both the creatures and any potential ambushes. After a short break, Tiberius devised a new strategy. The creatures are heavy and armored, he said. But they have weak spots. The joints in their armor are vulnerable. Also, the Lyrics' main advantage on this planet is the toxic gas. Our lungs can resist it, but theirs cannot. If we can lure them out of the forest, they'll be more exposed in open terrain, Alex said. But it's a risky move. Tiberius nodded. Yes, but we've evolved to face risks. They haven't. The plan was set in motion. The unit began withdrawing toward the edge of the forest, with the Lyric forces following them. As soon as the humans reached open ground, they turned and took up their strategic positions. The Lyrics charged after them at full speed, but the human forces responded with laser rifles and heavy machine guns. The first wave of the attack was met with devastating losses, forcing the Lyrics to pull back. The massive creatures had lost their speed in the open, and the human engineering advantages became evident. Tiberius and his unit successfully lured the Lyric army into a narrow canyon, trapping them. The battle raged on for hours. With each passing minute, humanity further solidified its reputation as the galaxy's most resilient and lethal warriors. Thanks to Tiberius' intelligence and his soldiers' determination, the Lyric forces were eventually forced to retreat. Even in the harsh conditions of Nostrati, the humans had paid the price for victory and emerged triumphant. Tiberius stood on the edge of the cliff, looking down at the fleeing Lyrics. A faint smile crossed his face. This is only the beginning, he said to himself. Humanity will prevail, no matter the odds. As Nostrati's scorching sun rose above the poisonous mist, Tiberius surveyed the battlefield. The Lyrics had retreated, but the scars of war were still visible. The human battalion had suffered heavy losses. The ground was littered with bodies, each inch marked by the brutal struggle. Wounded soldiers waited for medical aid in the trenches, while the bitter taste of victory lingered. Tiberius opened his radio and barked orders. Gather the wounded, and everyone else fortify the defense line. This isn't over yet. The Lyrics will come again, and this time they'll hit harder. Alex approached with a heavy machine gun slung over his shoulder. How much time do we have, Commander? Tiberius glanced at the dark clouds on the horizon. The Lyrics regrouping and launching a counterattack was only a matter of time. Maybe a few hours. Maybe less. Suddenly, the sky was torn apart by the sound of a massive explosion. The Lyrics warships had begun preparing for heavy bombardment. They pierced through the atmosphere, descending towards the area where the human forces were stationed. As the explosions tore up the ground around them, Tiberius quickly issued orders. Everyone to the trenches. Move quickly. Tiberius yelled, guiding his unit away from the epicenter of the blasts. The soldiers hurried, taking cover in natural shelters and underground caves. But the bombardment was only the beginning. Unlike their usual tactics, the Lyrics had chosen to bombard the humans before engaging in direct combat. Tiberius knew this, but he also knew their weakness. The bombardment abruptly stopped. A deadly silence settled over the battlefield, heralding the approaching storm. In the distance, the shadows of the Lyric army emerged. This time, they were greater in number, and alongside them were more advanced, deadlier armored vehicles. Tiberius squinted, assessing the situation. This will be their final assault, he muttered to himself, a determined look crossing his face. If we survive this, Nostrati will be ours. Tiberius paused for a moment and looked at his battalion. Even the wounded were ready to fight. There was no fear in their eyes, only a deep belief in their cause. The genetically enhanced bodies of the humans allowed them to keep fighting in such harsh conditions. But Tiberius knew that endurance alone wouldn't be enough this time. Strategy would be the deciding factor. You know the plan, Tiberius said over the radio to the entire battalion. We lure them in. Their weak points are the joints in their armor and their eyes. Focus your fire, force them to make mistakes. We are the hosts of this planet, not them. As the Lyrics launched their attack, The human battalion had drawn them into a narrow pass. No matter how large the Lyric army was, they were weak against human intelligence and endurance. The pass restricted the movement of the Lyric armored vehicles. Tiberius and his unit unleashed a deadly rain of fire upon the Lyrics. Heavy machine guns, laser rifles, and explosives tore through their ranks. Yet, the Lyrics did not falter this time. Their armored vehicles, gaining speed in the narrow sections of the pass, forced the humans to retreat further. Their armor was so thick that only precision shots could stop them. A Lyric tank began advancing slowly, firing as it moved. The explosions tore apart the ground, sending soldiers flying. Tiberius acted immediately. "Are the explosives ready?" he asked through the radio. Alex poked his head out from cover, looking at the tank's approach. "Ready, Commander, but we need to wait until they're closer." Tiberius nodded. "All right, wait for my signal." When the tanks reached the narrowest point of the pass, Tiberius gave the signal. "Now!" The explosives detonated with a massive roar, causing the walls of the pass to collapse. Enormous boulders fell onto the armored vehicles, burying them beneath the earth. The Lyrics, in a panic, tried to retreat, but they struggled to move in the confined space. Tiberius seized the opportunity. "All units, attack now." The humans launched a fierce assault on the disoriented Lyric forces. Tiberius engaged in close combat with a Lyric soldier, deftly dodging its armored arm before plunging a sharp blade into the exposed joint of the Lyric's neck armor. The Lyric fell to the ground with a cry of agony. "Forward!" Tiberius shouted. "Push them back!" The last few minutes of the battle were the bloodiest. Despite their superior technology and overwhelming numbers, the Lyrics were forced to retreat in the face of human endurance and tactical brilliance. Before the pass completely collapsed, the remaining Lyric forces managed to escape. When the battle was over, Tiberius stood still for a moment, listening to the silence of victory. Around him were the remnants of explosions, the groans of the wounded, and the wreckage of the battlefield. But humanity had won. Tiberius looked at his unit. For a moment, he stood silently, honoring the fallen. Victory always came with a heavy price. "Good work," Tiberius said, his voice weary but proud. "Today, we didn't just survive. We conquered this planet. Humanity will always prevail in the galaxy." Alex approached, covered in blood and sweat but smiling. "What do we do now, Commander?" Tiberius gazed into the distant depths of the galaxy. "We prepare for our next battle. For humanity, peace only exists on the eve of a greater war." Together with the rest of his unit, they left the battlefield. Nostrati was now under human control. Even in the harshest conditions of the galaxy, humanity, reaching the peak of its evolution, had savored the taste of victory. I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye, see you in the next story.